Welcome to the tutorial on building a full-stack email job scheduler using Next.js, Node.js, Redis, Prisma, and BullMQ from scratch. Whether you are automating bulk email campaigns or sending time-sensitive notifications, this project delivers a powerful, secure, and scalable solution. Let's break down the tech stack driving this masterpiece. On the front end, Next.js and React.js team up to create a sleek, user-friendly interface. On the server side, Node.js powers our logic with Redis swimming along as high-speed in-memory store for our job queues. BullMQ and Brie handle the heavy lifting of job scheduling and processing, while Prisma and PostgreSQL keep our data rock solid and organized. For crafting gorgeous emails, React Email Editor brings a drag-and-drop experience to the table, and NodeMailer seals the deal by sending bulk emails effortlessly. But what makes this app unique? Picture this: to schedule email jobs with pinpoint accuracy using Cron patterns, like every Tuesday at 10 a.m., or set them to fire off at regular intervals, say every 15 minutes. If a job stumbles, maybe a server timeout, no worries. BullMQ's retry system kicks in to give it another go. We have also baked in job limit to keep the system lean and mean, no matter how big your workload gets. Now let's talk about monitoring and security. With BullBolt, you get a real-time dashboard to watch your jobs in action, track what is running, debug failures, and adjust schedules on the fly. But here is the kicker. We are locking it down with passport authentication. That means only authorized users can access the BullBolt, keeping your job data safe from prying eyes. By the end of this build, you will have a production-grade app that is fast and reliable and log-tight, ready to tackle email workflow like a pro. Let's dive in and start coding. Alright, let me show you the demo of our application. So you can see our beautifully looking interface over here, and since our application is login protect, we have to actually log in. So if, for instance, you enter an email that does not exist in the database, automatically create an account for you. So based on this application, so I'm going to go ahead and use this email known as tech45@gmail.com and try to sign in. You can see it has logged us in, and we can see our beautifully looking interface over here. And I have some predefined templates within this React email editor. By the way, we use React email editor over here to craft this email newsletter. So I can decide to switch from one template to another. Maybe I decide to switch to template 2. These are predefined templates, and I can switch to template 3 over here. You can see it predesigned the template over here to save us time in this tutorial. Or you can choose a blank template where you can actually design all this thing from the scratch for your newsletter. So supposing it is your application, you should be able to design your own newsletter from scratch. So if you want a heading, maybe this is my heading, this is my heading. And then if, for instance, you want to have another section over here, another column, you can click over here, select if you want to add text and maybe the description, and maybe after text you still want to add another content. You can drag and drop all these components over here, and then you can click over here to add. Maybe it's an image that you want to add. You can be able to drag and drop over here, click over here, and you should be able to actually upload an image over here. Select any of these images and then upload. So maybe if you select that one and click on it, it will be able to upload. So this is we are using React email editor over here, and then you can see the image. So you, with this React email editor, you'll be able to actually craft your own newsletter, design it the way you want. And then if you want to add more components over here, you should be able to actually drag and drop another column over here. You can choose the kind of column that you want, maybe 50-50, that is 2 columns, and add your content as well. After this, you should be able to preview it. So let me just switch to one of these templates, already predefined templates. You can click on this eye over here to preview how your email will look like on different devices. Just on large devices like desktop, if I want to see how it will appear on the tablet, I should be able to see. And if I want to see how it will appear on mobile, I should be able to see it over here too. And you can click here to choose different kind of devices that we show you how the email will look like. So this is our own template. After this, you can be able to cancel over here and maybe redesign it the way you want. You can be able to change the background of this template over here by coming to body. Maybe you click over here, you should be able to select another color, and then it will apply it automatically. So it is up to you. So and then after we have designed this, the main aim of this application is to be able to schedule our own email job. So we click over here on schedule, and then on the schedule over here, once you see this modal or dialog that is open over here, you'll be able to define your options like the subject, and then you can also specify the group of email. So before this, let's assume you already have separated your email in your database to different groups. You should be able to see the groups appear over here, whether you want to send this newsletter or to schedule this newsletter to general. And then if I come to my Prisma DB over here, you can see I've created some groups like general group, entrepreneurs, and developers. And within this group, I have different subscribers to these groups. So like over here, I've got someone that is subscribed, and I have towe.developer@gmail.com that is subscribed. I also have entrepreneurs that is just a single subscriber, and I have developers group that is just a single subscriber, and all my subscribers have their database over here captured with their email. So and the users table over here keeps track of all the users that are currently logged into our application. And then the failed recipient, it is when our job actually fails, it will log all the email that are failed over here so that it can retry our job. So you can see the interface over here. If we want to send this email to only the general group, we can just select general group over here. We can select multiple groups though, but if the same emails are present in different groups, it will only send to unique emails. So it will duplicate those emails. Over here, it is asking us the time to schedule. So you can see our current time over here is 9:25, and this is marking red to show you that there is an error. So we want to have to schedule this email at least 3 minutes ahead of the current time. So we can click over here and select, like, maybe check the current time. My current time is 9:26 a.m. I can schedule this email to run at 9:35 or 9:30. So and over here, the retry strategy. What if our job that is scheduled has failed? Do we want it to retry in fixed time? So if it is fixed time, then or exponential, we also specify the retry attempt. So and we can specify whether we want this job to be a repeatable job. So supposing it is something that you wanted to send interval per interval, we can enable this option over here. And when we enable this option, it gives us other option. But I just want this job to just be a fixed job over here, that a one-time job. So I'm going to specify my retries a positive number. If it fails, it will retry up to 4 times. So from there, I can click on submit, but you can see that our current time is 9:27, and our time over here, if we click on submit, you can see an error over here. Schedule at must be a valid date string and at least 3 minutes. Alright, so you can see our current time has elapsed. So I'm going to change this, our schedule at time, to be at least at 9:35 a.m. So over here, and then I will click on submit. So when I click on submit, you can see newsletter scheduled successfully over here. So we are going to log into our newsletter, our board interface, and check our scheduled job. So if you navigate where we have hosted our scheduling, the server of our job scheduling app, we can use our send login on this platform to log in over here to check our jobs. So let's log in and see the job that we have scheduled. So if we come over here, there are some other jobs that I have tried. You can see if I click on this and I come under delayed, you can see this job that we have just scheduled over here. You can see the option over here when the job is scheduled around 9:28 a.m. and it will take effect. It will run at 9:35 a.m. over here. You can see some other failed jobs that I've retried while making this video, and you can also see our completed jobs as well. So all these are jobs that we are scheduled. So with this board interface, we'll be able to monitor our job. We can be able to retry our job. We can be able to see our active job, our waiting jobs, waiting children, prioritize, completed, failed, delayed, and paused. So any job that is failed, we will be able to retry that job within this interface over here, and everything will still look everything will work great. So you can see the options of the job that was specified if a job has failed, and then we can also see if the error that occur, we'll be able to see. So these are under delay job. If we come under retry job, you can see it over here. If we click on retry, this job will be retried. So just like so, within this board interface, we'll be able to monitor our jobs and then everything. What if we want to schedule a repeatable job? So let's load another template over here. Supposing we want this particular template to run at a repeatable job interval, to run as a certain interval, we can then load the template or design the template that we want, and we can go over here, click on schedule email, and specify the subject, specify the group. If for instance we want to send this to only entrepreneurs and are different at a repeatable interval, so we can specify the time that we want this job to run. So supposing we want it to run at 9:40, that we say the difference based on the current time. Maybe if we specify the time over here, we calculate this time over here, and then based on what from the current time, and know the interval that our job will run at. So if over here we specify that this job is a repeatable job, we can choose to specify the interval that we want this job to run at. So you can see, enter the time over here in milliseconds. So if you want this job to run after every 5 minutes, we can multiply what 5 times is what 60 times is what 1000. So 5 times 6 is 30. So and then 30 over here, that is 300,000. So we can specify that 300,000 milliseconds, and we can specify the limit. We can choose to specify the limit. If you want this to run unlimited, then we'll have to leave this empty. But if for instance within these 5 minutes we want this job actually to run just 2 times after every 5 minutes, then we can specify it. We also want it to run immediately, so you can choose to enable this option on or off, and we can choose the start date or leave it blank. If you choose the start date, if for instance we want this job to run out, maybe today that is 11th March, we can specify that it should run at exactly, let's specify the time. If for instance we want it to run at 9 a.m. starting at what 9:45 a.m. we can specify the time, and we can also specify the end date. So if for instance we want it to stop in the near future, it will as well do, and we will click on what submit. So you can see our newsletter is scheduled successfully, so it will start at what 9:45. So you can schedule multiple jobs over here, or millions of jobs, thousands of jobs, and this interface will be able to handle all those jobs. So if we come to our interface over here, and you can see our job is loaded automatically, and right now we have 2 delay jobs. So and if you click on under this delay tab, we should be able to see our job over here, and we can see that this job over here is running at what at 9:35. So likewise this one, and this one over here, you can see this one says repeat 1/2, which is that the job should run 2 times. So that's exactly the time that it will run. So within this repeatable job, it will run the first time and also run the second time, depending on the number of limit. If we click on options over here, we should be able to see the option that we specified on the interface. So you can see, we see the backup delay should be fixed. And instead of exponential, we also say that it should be able to repeat 2 times at the start time that we also specify over here. And here is our job ID. You can see when 11:35 reaches it actually executed the job. I am going to open our mail and check, and you can see the other job too has been completed. This one too has been completed, the one that was scheduled to run at 9:35. So you can see how fantastic this is looking. Let's check our mails and see. All right, so if we open our inbox over here, you can see our email has been dispatched exactly at 9:35. This is when we schedule this email to take effect. So you can see our mail has been dispatched to our inbox. So supposing these are our subscribed users, you should be able to see this mail. This is the repeated. This is the first email that we actually dispatched, that Code Sermon newsletter, the first one that we dispatched. All right, so you can see our jobs have been completed successfully over here, and you can see our repeat job or repeatable job, and it was scheduled at 9:35. It ran immediately, and then it's completed at 9:50. All right, so when we open our email over here, you can see the email that we scheduled, and this mail was dispatched at exactly 9:50. That's like 3 minutes ago. You can see this mail that we sent over here. So you can see everything is looking beautiful. We scheduled our email and it was dispatched. So with this demonstration, you can see our newsletter over here application. This one is powered by Next.js together with React email editor for designing our email template. We have our own Prisma DB over here, where we have modded our database that has up to 5 tables. We also have our board interface over here, where we can be able to monitor our jobs, see the completed job, failed jobs, delayed job, and we should be able to retry failed jobs. So if you come over the corner of failed job over here, if you click on this, it will be able to retry any failed job. So, and then if we schedule an email and the job has failed, the job will continue to retry until it has exhausted the number of retriers. So what are the tech stack required for our project? So we made use of Next.js in this project. So ensure you have knowledge about Next.js and React.js. Don't worry if you don't have, we have everything covered in this tutorial. You also have to install Node.js on your system. You also have to install Redis. So either install Redis server or Redis stack on your system, be it Mac or Windows. You also have to install Postgres SQL. And we're making use of Prisma, so and the database is Postgres SQL. So, and within this Redis installation, you should also install Redis Insight for actually monitoring our Redis. So you can see the Redis Insight over here. This is the interface to see how our database is working behind the scene and everything. So we can be able to monitor our database over here, simulate, and then see how our data is stored within our Redis over here. So after we have done with this, let's go ahead and bootstrap our project with Next.js. So open a terminal on your system, copy this command over here on Next.js website, and then open the terminal over here. So, and we actually want a new terminal over here. So let's click on this basic, and we create a project. So let me seed into projects, and I want to create let me create a new directory for this known as scheduler, or yes, let me call it scheduler, and we seed into our scheduler. And inside the scheduler, let's go ahead and bootstrap our Next.js project. Yes. The name of our app, let's call it client. TypeScript, yes. ESLint, yes. Tailwind, no. Source directory, yes. App router, yes. Turbo pack, yes. And we want to use an import alias. So let's specify it like this. And then hit enter. Let's wait for our application to bootstrap. As our app is bootstrapping, we want to make use of MUI. So let's go to MUI installation over here. Let's copy this command. Now we get back to our terminal. You can see our Next.js app is created. Let's go ahead and open this in VS Code by typing the command code space dot. And our project is open here. Our scheduler directory is open with client directory, which has our Next.js app. So let's go ahead, open a terminal within VS Code and seed it into client directory, and from there we paste this command of installing MUI. After we have installed that, let's go ahead and install the font as well. So paste the command over here. We copy this import. So if it's not copying, go ahead and then copy this, and we take it, open the client directory, the source, the layout, and then go ahead and paste this import over here. We go ahead and remove all this dummy configuration. So we change this one to newsletter and scheduler. So like that, newsletter scheduler, and then we can leave the description. Let's go ahead and remove this one over here, and let's navigate back. We need to make use of some icons as well. So let's go ahead and install it, paste it, and then we need to actually import this style from Google to make use of MUI icon. So let's open our global.css, and at the top over here, let's go ahead and tap at import and then paste the URL. So, and we will remove some of these default settings. So let's go ahead and do that. We don't need them. And what else? So if we get back, the next step over here is to configure Next.js MUI Next.js. So let's go over here and follow this link. Go ahead and copy that command, paste it, and we need to actually import this within our app layout file. So let's go to still within our app layout. Let's go at the top over here and paste this, and we need to wrap the whole of our children. So let's go ahead, paste this stuff like that. The provider should wrap the whole of our children inside the body tag like that. The next step for us over here is to actually search for MUI CSS variable, MUI CSS variables. So go ahead and then type it and visit this link over here, and let's go under basic usage, and under basic usage we actually need to create, import theme provider and all the like. Navigate back. Let's inside the source directory, let's go ahead and create another directory known as context. And inside the context, we create a directory known as app theme and context.tsx. So, and then since it's going to be a client component, let's go ahead and type use client directive at the top and paste this command over here. So we call this one, we actually say const what, and app theme provider. So let's call it app theme provider. And since we want it to be an arrow function, let's go ahead and change it to this. And then we have our theme over here. And since we are using TypeScript, let's go ahead and pass props and say it should be any, and we want this to wrap the whole of our children. So props.children. We will also need to import another component from MUI known as our CSS baseline. So CSS baseline like that. And then let's move this our theme over here down here. But we also want to enable light and what dark mode. So in order to enable light and dark mode, let's go to advanced configuration, and under the advanced configuration over here, let's copy this toggling between light and dark mode over here. Let's take it back and replace this one over here, so like this. And then the theme should be passed to the theme provider that we have imported over here like this. We also want to, if we go back to this basic usage, we want to also configure TypeScript. So let's go under TypeScript setup and then import this. Let's copy this, or we can just copy this line over here in order to enable TypeScript usage or to augment TypeScript within our MUI. So we can now go ahead and export this. So let's go ahead and export this export default what app theme provider. So, and we copy this and import it within our app.layout file in our app layout.tss file. So let's go ahead and import it like this and then cut these children and drop it inside. So back here under advanced, still under CSS variable, under advanced configuration, scroll down to app Next.js.app router configuration. So we need to copy this over here. So let's highlight this line, init color scheme, paste it at the top over here, and we should actually call it inside the body before our main app. So let's call it inside the body. So here we have it like this. So this is the configuration, basic configuration of our MUI and Next.js. So let's go to this page.txs file, and under this page.txs file, we actually don't want this default configuration that is over here. Let's remove the elements or the component down there. Create another directory inside the source known as components. So components, and then inside the components we have two directories known as pages and what common. So common like this, and then inside the pages, let's go ahead and create index.tss file, and then inside the pages again, let's create another file known as homepage.tss. So like that, and then we want to actually create it as an arrow function or as an arrow function component. So let's go ahead and export it within our index.tss file. So export default as this, then from what /homepage, and with this now we should be able to make use of this within our app router, within the app directory page.tss file. So let's go ahead and import this here like this. So but this is going to be a client component, so let's go ahead and add the directive at the top known as use client here like this. So the next step for us is to configure our authentication within Next.js. In order to configure our authentication, let's open Auth.js. Let's search for Auth.js, and you can see the installation over here, the page. If you visit the website, let's copy this command and take it back over here. Let's paste it like that, and the next step is to set up our auth secret. Copy this command again, navigate back, let's open new terminal over here, cd into client, and paste this command and hit enter. So it should create .env files for us. So it has created .env.local and drop this key over here for us. Let's go back. We want to make use of it, so we have to create a file within our source directory known as auth.ts file and drop this configuration. So within our source directory, go ahead and create a file known as auth.ts file and paste it like that. Then the next step for us over here is to inside our app we need to also create a directory known as API/auth. So within over here, let's create another directory known as API, and inside the API, create another directory known as auth, and then inside the auth, we have to create this directory known as this capture all directory known as this. Pasted that and hit enter, and then inside it we need to create a file known as rad and drop this configuration over here. So inside, let me expand this, and then inside this directory we create a directory known as rad.ts file, and then paste this configuration over here. Then we create another file known as .middleware. So let's copy the name of the file. Within our source directory, let's create another file known as .middleware.ts file, and then we can copy this over here and drop it. This is how to set Auth.js and authentication. So we are done with the configuration. Then we can go to authentication proper, and the one that we'll be making use of is credentials authentication. So the credential has its own configuration that we need to do as well. So let's save everything. All right, let's run our app and see npm run dev, and you can see our app is running on port 3000. Let's go ahead and open it in the browser and see. You can see this home page over here. Let's navigate back, but you can see our app is failing over here due to incomplete configuration. So let's go ahead and finish up our Auth.js configuration. So let's replace this with this, and now we explain. So first of all, we want to also validate our input. So let's go ahead and install a library known as Zod. So type npm install Zod. So Zod is a library for validating input. So we make use of that. And before that, see within the source directory, let's create another file known as schema. And within the schema, let's create a file known as index.ts file. And then I will paste this and explain over here. And I have to specify my types over here. So let's create another directory inside the source known as let's call it types. We define our types over here, and then inside it, let's create another file known as index.ts file and drop it over here. So you can see the retry. We created a type of schedule option which has immediately repeat strategy of type repeat strategy, and look at our repeat strategy over here. These are the types. That's why we can move them to the top over here, still the same. And we have also specified the start date, the end date. These are actually props. We have defined our interface over here, and we also defined the pattern over here. I will explain along in the video. And we can remove this one over here, and we also have our schedule interface and our newsletter interface. So if we go back to our schema over here, and we import our repeat strategy. We created a schema for, we shall come to this. Let me focus on what sign-in schema. So all we have done is we have validated the email that we pass and the password. So first of all, we say email must be required and must be a string, and we have also specified the password should have a minimum of 8 characters and maximum of 32. So this is basically what we have done. And then within our Auth.js, we have actually imported this from what schema. We also need to configure our API URL. Remember, we are going to use Node.js over here for creating our queue scheduler. Create another directory known as what config. So config, and within the config, we create another file known as index.ts. Let's instead of adding this, let's go ahead within our client directory, create another file known as .env.development. So we add our development environment variables over here, and then inside it we specify where we want to host our server. So by the time we set up our Node.js server, it will run in on port 5001. So we have created this environment variable over here known as next_public_API_URL. Within our config index.ts file over here, let's go ahead and create this API export const API URL string process.env.next_public_API URL. This is the environment variable we have created over here to enable us to connect to our backend that we'll be creating in subsequent time. So let's go ahead and save everything. But we are working, remember, we are setting up our auth configuration. So let's go ahead and import this. So we exported handlers, sign in, sign out, auth from what? Next.auth. This is the Next.auth library that we have installed. So if for instance we go to our configuration, our Auth.js.dev website, auth configuration, you should be able to see it over here. So basically it's everything over here that we have copied. So over here, then we specify that the strategy should be what? JWT. The strategy can be database if you want it to be saved in a database, or it can be JWT. So we want it to be a JWT token, and then we also specify the credential providers, and the credential provider over here we specify the email. We want to collect what? Email and password. Then we have specified this authorized callback function. Within this authorized callback function, if you have our auth form setup, it should be able to contain what? The email and the password that we specify over here. So we go ahead and pass this to our sign-in.schema what? Configuration. So our sign-in.schema what? Validator. So we want it to validate the email and the password based on our schema what? Validator. So, and then if we open this schema, is the one specified that the email should be at least minimum of 1, and then the email must be a valid email. We also specify that the password must be a string and must be minimum of 8 and maximum of 32 characters. So that is it. So it will validate that if an error occurs, it will fall within this our try and catch over here. We have also made a request to our API, our Node.js that will be setting up in due course, that you should be able to take this password and email, send it to our server to validate if this user already exists. If it exists, it should log us in. If it doesn't exist, you create that person, the account for that person. And we will also check and return the user respectively. So this is how we can be able to use credentials login within our Next.js application using Next.auth library. So we also specify some callbacks as a configuration within our Next.auth configurations over here. So, and then we say the auth, they redirect you after a successful sign-in. You should be able to redirect us to the base URL of our application. The next step over here is for the auth sign-in custom pages. So we say our custom page, it should be when a user visits /auth. So let's go ahead and create this auth. Open our app directory, and then within it create a directory known as auth. So since Next.js is file-based routing, so we are going to create another file inside it known as page.tss file. And within our page.tss file, we are going to go ahead and define our let's create another component over here known as page client. Once we specify our client component, our form for logging in to our application. So within our page.client, inside our auth and auth page over here, we have imported some components from Material UI, the box, the icon, the outline, and then we specify the directive at the top over here known as use clients. And then this is one of these components going to take a probe or sign-in action from the server, and then we have specified use state over here, and then we want to be able to toggle between showing our password and hiding our password. And then we have also specified some other event listeners over here. We have specified our CSS props over here, configured it, wanted to justify, to display flex, justified our content center, and also specify our BG. So let's go ahead and check out our BG. So within our public directory over here, let's go ahead and paste this image over here. Is the one that I want to actually use as my background image. So it's the one that I specify over here as background image. So I want the background position to be 50% and 0. I want the background repeat to be no repeat. I want the background size to cover, and I specify the background color and the background blend mode so that I can be able to blend my color with my background image and have an overlay like kind of structure. So there are different kinds of backgrounds and blend mode options over here, but the one I actually want is overlay. You can decide to use color bone, color dodge, darken, but I prefer the overlay. So, and I've called a typography element from Material UI, and specify some props over here. If you want to make use of Material UI theme variable, I have a video that is covering this. You can check out my Material UI on how to use CSS variables within Material UI in order to be able to talk between light and dark mode without screen flicker. So specify that this is my image scheduling app, and also I've opened a paper. Paper is also imported from Material UI. It's a component over here, and I've imported paper. I want to have a kind of a card-like component over here, so that is the reason why I've imported paper. I specify the elevation so that my paper will have a kind of shadow elevation to be 8. You can specify between 0 to 24 values over here. I specify my background color to be primary.main. So, and I specify the typography to be signing. I've created a form over here for actually signing into our application. Now within this form, I specify the form control over here that is wrapping the whole of our application, and the email over here as the name of our label, and the input. I also specify my password over here, and those event listener that are created at the top for toggling and for hiding and showing my password, I pass them over here respectively. So these are the event listeners over here. So what happens when this form is submitted? So when this form is submitted, you remember this sign-in prop. that we will be getting from our server over here, pass it to our form element action. So when we click on submit, you should be able to trigger this sign-in form action. So within our page.tss file, let's go ahead and explain this. So you can see we imported our page client, this particular page over here that we have created from the page clients, and then we have imported sign in from what OAuth in order to be able to log in a user to actually make a request to our OAuth. So our OAuth API will be in charge of handling our credentials for signing. So there are different forms of signing options over here. If you use Apple signing or Google signing, GitHub and different kinds, or email, but the one that we're using over here is credentials word signing. So and then we pass in our phone data. So remember, this is the function that we're going to pass as a prop to our page clients function over here. So if we check our page client, it is receiving a prop, and that prop is accepting form data. So whichever form, that is the email and the password that we submit to our form over here, will be taken by this and to try to send it to our OAuth configuration, or which we have already done it over here inside OAuth.ts. So when we click on the submit button, it will make request to our server over here. All this is handled by Node.js. So our server will accept this email and password and use our schema to validate the input that is passed. So and then make request to our Node.js server. So our Next.js server will accept the password and the email over here, check if the user exists in the database, log us in. If it doesn't exist and the password doesn't match and it is a valid email, it will create a user. So we'll be setting up the Next.js server in due course. So this is basically what is happening within this our auth and page and file over here. So let's go ahead and then save everything. But also within our page.tss file in the main layout, we want to check if a user has not logged into our application. We don't want the user to access this page over here. So over here we can say concession is equal to what await what auth, and this auth will be imported from what the auth file. So let's change this component into an async function component. So and we are importing auth from what auth. So this auth over here, this one over here, this is the function that we're importing within our page.tss in the root of our application over here. We want to check if the section does not exist. We don't want the user to access our page for scheduling our application. So over here we can say if not what session. So we want to return redirect. So this redirect should be imported. This is a function that should be imported from next/what navigation library. So and then we want it to redirect to what to /auth. So if a user tries to access our main root, that is / our main root of application, and it's not logged in, should be redirected to the auth page for login. So let's save everything and check it out in the browser and see. So if we come back over here and we try to access this route 3000 and we are not yet logged into this application, you can see that it redirects us to auth to /auth page or route for us to actually sign in. So this is just the basic of our authentication over here. So but what we can disable, if we disable this auth signing over here, we should be able to access our root index of application. When we access the root directory, when we visit localhost 3000, we should be able to see this without the check for auth signing. So let's go ahead and set up our React email editor so that we will be able to design our own template and actually schedule job and send it to our Node.js application. So go open new tab over here and search for npm React email editor. So at the first link over here, we should be able to visit this npm homepage. So you can see, you can click on this to view how you can be able to make use of React email editor. But I'm going to go ahead and copy this over here and install this library within our Next.js application. So open the terminal and within our client directory, go ahead and install this. So let's close these other files for now and open our home page. Our common directory, let's go ahead and create index.tss file, and then we create another file known as setup dialog. So setup dialog, this is the modal that we'll be using to set up our scheduling job. So let's paste it over. So let me explain. So first of all, we need to install some libraries like Day.js. So and then let's go ahead and type this npm install Day.js. And then we also need to install this library known as date pickers. So let's copy that and do npm install MUI/x date pickers. So the library. So we'll be using this library. If for instance you check out the MUI documentation, go ahead, MUI date picker. If you visit MUI date picker, you should be able to see different examples of MUI component for picking dates. So you can see different examples over there, and this is the library that we'll be using over here. So you can go back to overview or what getting started over here. You have to install Node.js and MUI-/x-date pickers. So you can see these are the libraries that we have just installed. So we have actually imported some components from MUI over here. So you can see we imported some types that we have already defined under types. So if we go under types over here, we have defined our scheduling options. We have also defined our schedule payload that will be sending to our server. So these are the options that we'll be expecting. We have also defined our newsletter group and all the like. So this is basically what we are importing from the types over here. The rest are some components from MUI. We have created a config over here for showing our options, our group options. We are going to see exactly how these types work. We have omitted some props from our interface so that we can be able to make it match with our current form configuration. We have also created some Redis pattern over here for matching, because sometimes during our scheduling job we have to specify some cron jobs. So some cron job options over here, we will see exactly how this is going to work. We have created a pattern for matching all these cron job options. So we have created our initial state over here, and we pass this our local state to, you can see our local state over here, and we pass it, and then we pass our initial state object over here. So it is expecting schedule at, expecting the subject, the retry attempt. The retry strategy by default should be fixed, or we have dot exponential as well, but we want it to be by default fixed. We have groups of null. So these are basically our setup dialog, and our setup dialog is expecting pros of open. When we click on the button to toggle, when the open is true, it will toggle our dialog. We are also expecting messages to show errors. We are expecting newsletter groups in order to display it in our form for users to select. So, and then we are validating our words. We are also to handle our cron patterns as well over here. We have also defined our function for handling on group change, and we have also created on submit function over here. When we click on submit, it should be able to actually toggle to call our submit button, and if our submit button returns done is true, it should be able to close our modal over here and reset this state back to initial state. So we imported dialog from material UI. So our dialog component is imported from material UI, and then we want it to be full screen, and we have specified the is open option over here, which is coming from which is a prop over here that we have defined our variable over here. We have saved this open prop, and over here we created a memo over here so that it can only change based on open prop. Then the dialog title should be configure email schedule, and we have our dialog component over here, and within our dialog component we created a form, and our form has text field where we want to collect the subject of the newsletter job. We also have a group where we want to select the group that will be coming from our backend, and we have also specified the date picker so that the users can be the scheduler, the person that is scheduling the job, can be able to pick the time that we want the job to schedule. And then we also specify the retry strategy over here, and we want a situation where we have also